Morning, everybody. My name is Greg Barnes, and I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Horner Express Worldwide. We thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. So I'd like to introduce Nachi Canedo. So she's been in the sales industry for over 13 years now, and she's been working with the stone industry for over 5 years. So she's got a great deal of experience, having traveled all over Florida and Long Island in New York as well. So without further ado, let's turn it over to her.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for jumping in. And again, like Greg said, taking time to be here with us. It is my pleasure to help you better understand the behind the scenes of what happens in the natural stone world. So let's jump in and let's get started. How to understand the selection process and the influences of the overall cost. The overview today will discuss and give you a sneak peek behind the scenes of the natural stone industry, provide you an insight and understanding to cost. The key topics we'll be talking about today is going to be block selections, the factory, color range, the selection process, pitting range, the logistics, and packaging. So let's start with block selection. So the quarry is the one that predetermines which blocks are going to be of a higher value, depending on color and pitting, okay? The selection most desired in the marketplace is valued higher. So for example, if the color ivory, that neutral color, right now in the marketplace is in high demand, it means that those blocks for the ivory is going to cost more money versus another product called walnut or mocha that's going to be darker, okay? Less desired selections are going to be less expensive. And this changes throughout as the trend changes. So if the trend right now is white and gray marbles, right now, those blocks are going to cost more versus the travertine, okay? Location within the quarry, parts of the quarry that's pulling less desirable selections, such as with a lot of holes or with less popular color ranges, are going to be less expensive. So if the blocks are coming out with more color variation, larger pitting, with color ranges that right now in the market is not a demand, that's going to be less expensive, okay? And as you can see, the photo in the quarry, they have different layers in the quarries there. And before I can continue, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to raise your hand or type in the webinar chat your questions, and I'll be able to read them and hopefully be able to help you, okay? Now, types of machinery. High-end machinery is going to allow for us to have a more accurate sizing, but that also is going to increase cost, okay, of the overall of the material. While old or outdated equipment, even though it's going to be a lower cost, it will increase variances in sizes and thicknesses. So we at StoneHardscapes, we partner with factories that we're able to find that middle ground where it's not going to be too expensive, where we can still deliver a very high quality product at a very competitive price, okay? The right photo that you see that is white and blue, that is a sandblasting machine that's used for the marbles. That creates a grip texture, so that way the customer, when they're using it, they don't feel like it's slippery, okay? The middle photo right there, that's a gang saw. That's used to cut slabs blocks. And then that big saw that you see there that is yellow and orange, that saw is used in the initial phase when they're excavating the blocks from the quarry, from the mountain. Remember, we're talking about cost. What factors into cost that's going to influence the overall price of the product, okay? Types of labor also comes into play. When working with a factory that have Turkish citizens, the government requires them to pay significant taxation, which increases the cost of the material. While other factories that works with workers from other countries, they're not required to pay those taxes. So that lowers the cost as well. Distance from quarries. So this is just an examples of some of the quarries that we currently work with right now. And the further the factory is from the quarry, the greater the increase in pricing because of the block transportation cost. So we want to be strategically working with factories that's going to be closest to the quarries that we get our material, so that way we can minimize the block transportation costs. Ever wonder how two products can have the same name and look totally different? So here is an example, right? So both of these products right now in the market is called Aspen White. It is a marble material, okay? Products can have the same exact name, but be from a totally different quarry, or just be a very different selection range from the same quarry. Here's an example as Aspen White. So the top picture is our material that we have. It's called Aspen White. And as you can see, it's a lighter gray. It has linear lines. It's not as dark as the picture underneath that has a lot of more color ranges, lines going through in different directions. Okay, in order for us to get a cleaner look product, we have to buy more blocks. We have to have more factory workers and working long hours in order to get that color range. So the point here is that even though in the market they may have the same name, there is a price difference for a reason, okay? The photo below, you don't necessarily have to buy more blocks. Whatever the blocks is giving you as they're cutting, that supplier is taking it, which means they're gonna have less waste, they're gonna have less workers, and they ultimately gonna have to buy less blocks. So obviously the cost of that product is going to be less versus the one on top. Another example, and there is a true story behind this one, okay? So same quarry, just a different selection, okay? Some of you are very familiar with the name Ivory Premium, okay? Or ivory, color ivory, that's a travertine, okay? The more homogeneous the color range is, the more expensive the product cost, right? Again, we're talking about more labor, more people, longer hours, greater number of blocks that we have to produce, and ultimately we're gonna have a high amount of waste, okay? So the photo on the right that you see the driveway with the house, that is what we call, and that's our selection of Ivory Premium. The photo next to it, which is a patio that you see the blue tape, that is from a different, it's a competitor's material, okay? That is not our material. And the reason why I wanted to include this in the presentation is so that our customers understand that even though the name may be the same, it doesn't mean that you're getting the material, the same material. And this is a clear example, okay? So true story is that a pool builder had our display in his showroom, which is the photo with the house. The homeowner picked that material. Later on, that builder failed to place the PO, the purchase order, in time. We didn't have the material that they needed at that moment. And he thought travertine is travertine, everybody gets it from the same place, it's the same thing. Okay, as you can see, clearly is not. He buys from a different place, he installs it. Homeowner comes out and start blue taping it, meaning I don't accept this piece, that piece, that piece, okay? It became a nightmare. He eventually reached out to me and asked me to visit the job site to see if what he had bought, even though he wasn't from us, was Ivory Premium. I went on to explain to him that StoneHardscapes, we have a set different standards of what we call our material premium versus our competitor. He understood that, and to make the homeowner happy, he had to rip off the deck and put in new material because that homeowner was threatening him to take him to court. Okay, so travertine is travertine, or comes from the same place, but may look very different. It depends on who you're buying from. Okay. Ocean blue. So this is a marble. The top photo is our material. The bottom photo is a competitor. And the purpose of this slide is not to say that one product is better than the other, but the main point is that if there's a price difference for a reason. Okay, so the top product is 50 cents a square foot more than the second selection on the bottom. Worth the saving to some and not to others, but it's not the same thing. Okay, so if there is a big price difference that you're comparing, you're just looking at names and you're like, oh, this supplier has it and it's 25 cents less, it's 15 cents less, most likely you're not looking at the product. You're just looking at the name. You're not looking at the same thing. You're not comparing the same thing, as you can see here. Both in the markets right now are called ocean blue, but clearly they're very different. Range of pitting. Only StoneHardscapes has a set metrics to rate our quality levels. And we created this because we were able to find out that customers were having a hard time explaining to homeowners the different quality grades of travertine. And they were having problems, challenges. So we created this quality level specification card that you can find on our website. We actually have these cards printed that we can ship it to your office and give it to your sales team. So that way they're able to explain the different quality grades that we StoneHardscapes carry, okay? And this also helps us create clarity with our builders, with our customers, and also holds us accountable for what we're saying a premium product should look like or a plus product. So very quickly, I'm going to give you an example of how to read this card if you're just wondering on, hey, I'm looking at all these names and letters, how do I do this? All right, so if we were to look at a classic gray travertine, okay? It doesn't mean that classic is worse than premium, than plus. It just means a different look of material. So as you can see, there is a variant color scale at the bottom that goes from A to Z. So if we were looking at a classic travertine, you locate A and you locate Z, and that's the color range that your customer can expect with a classic product. So you're gonna have a very light piece and very dark pieces and everything between, okay? In regards to pitting, it's gonna be no larger than a quarter. Total pitting less than 20 to 40% surface area. Calibrations and dimensions, you're looking within the 3/16 of an inch. If you were to get a premium or a select gray travertine, those names, premium or select, they're interchangeable. So if you hear select, it means it's premium. If you hear premium, it means it's select. It has a moderate color range from A to N. So as you can see, that gap closes in, so you don't have that much variation. No pitting larger than a nickel. Total pitting less than 20% surface area. Calibrations and dimensions within the 2/16 of an inch. And then you move to the plus grade, the scale, you're looking at A to F. So you're still gonna get color variation, right? Remember, guys, we're looking at a natural product. You're gonna have variation, but not as much. Then you have pitting no larger than a dime and total pitting less than 10% total surface area with the calibration and dimensions of 1/16 of an inch, okay? Many of our customers, they use this scale to help close the customer on a grade, and then they have them sign off on what grade did they choose that you went over with them. So that way, if there's any questions down the line, you can ensure and say, you know what, I went over with you. You signed as if you that you understood. So let's move on, right? But very important, at the bottom of the card, in smaller letters, it says specification range is equivalent to 90% total volume, meaning up to 10% is permitted to be outside of range. So if you bought plus material and 10% of that plus material, you'll find the premium, some premium pieces there. It's totally normal. That's part of it, right? This is a natural product. So those pieces, we have to let the installers know to use for cuts and waste. Don't use a very good piece for cuts. Use the pieces that are looking outside of that range for you to make those cuts. Okay? And if you need this card, please let us know. Range of pitting. So less pitting is going to equal a higher cost. Smaller pitting, higher cost. More pitting and larger pitting is going to equal to lower cost. Okay, and these are the three different quality levels that we StoneHardscapes carry for travertine. Distance from port to port locations. So the distance from port directly correlates to either an increase or decrease in material cost due to the ground transportation. So some ports are more cost effective to ship from others because of a greater level of activity. So we try to use the ports that have a higher grade of activity and be able to be as closest to the quarries that we work with. So that way we minimize that cost, okay? Packaging. Sometimes I have a lot of customers asking me, hey, Nachi, how do you do your packaging? How does it work? Okay, so just so you guys have an idea, pallets are less than crates. So if you look at the photo to your left, where in the background you have a picture of a pallet, okay? An average price difference between a pallet and a crate is about 25 cents a square foot. We only use 4x8s and 6x12s on a pallet because they are smaller pieces, they're more compact, so they don't need as much security as the bigger pieces will demand, okay? And that way we're able to also save on the packaging on that side. But if we were to use the French pattern pieces or 12x24, 16x24 on a pallet like that, and it's on the water for 6 to 8 weeks, most likely it's not going to survive. We're going to have a lot of breakage, right? So we want to make sure that when the material gets here, we have minimum breakage throughout transportation, okay? Not all crates are created equal. So depending on the thickness of the wood, the amount of reinforcement, number of nails, number of straps, the type of styrofoam takes place. The amount of styrofoam that we use, where it's placed, all of that takes parts in cost. So if you look at the photo in the middle of this slide, you'll notice that we have straps going in and out of the pallets, of the crates, I'm sorry. You see several of them in and out. You see how the wood is positioned. You see how the foam, we put it on the sides, we put it in the middle. The type of wood that we use, all of that to make sure that when the material arrives, it arrives in great condition for our customers. Now, you're saying, Nachi, all of that is great information, but why does this matter to me? Well, I'll tell you why. Lowest initial cost doesn't always allow you or doesn't always equal lowest final cost. So not just because a product was less expensive that you bought, it means that at the end of the project, you saved money. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Higher percentage of breakage and waste. So we have two scenarios here where in one, you bought 10% for cuts and waste at $4 a square foot. The second one, you had to buy double of that for cuts and waste, but you were thinking you were saving 25 cents a square foot. When you do the math, at the end, you actually spent more on the material that you bought for $3.75 versus the one that you bought for $4. Okay. What happens when you run short? What happens when you're at the job, the installers are at the job, and all of a sudden they're like, we need more material. There were so many broken pieces. What happens then, right? Well, you have excessive labor cost. So now that job is costing you more money. Now you're delaying to finish that job. You thought you're going to finish in 2 days. Now it's taking you 5. And now you can't move on to the next job because you're stuck in this job to finish. Unreliable quality. You have extended installation process. So the installers are there for days trying to work with the material. You have excessive warranty issues. And then at the end, your homeowner is having a bad experience. So your homeowner isn't happy. And you thought that he was going to tell his neighbor about your company. Most likely they won't because of the experience they had. Right? So how to be successful, right? How to be successful in here. Always display the complete color range. Always. Maybe you don't have a showroom. And it's okay. Utilize our website. We're always updating our website with completed job photos, with new projects to make sure that you can actually share this with your customer so they can see how their project's going to end up. So I encourage you to utilize our website. We don't share pricing. You are our customer, not the homeowner. So don't be afraid to send your customers to our website. Factor in extra waste. This is a big one. I always see installers doing takeoff and they do not include waste. They don't include the square footage for cuts. It's a minimum of 10%. If you're not adding that to your takeoffs, you're going to end up being short every time. And that's going to cost you money. That's going to cost you time. Always factor in that extra waste. Train crews on each supplier's material. Maybe you have 3 different natural stone suppliers in your office or that you currently use. It's very important that when you start using our material, you get training from us. We're big in education. We want to make sure that your team, that you have all the knowledge necessary to be successful in selling our products. So don't feel afraid to reach out or ask for a training. We can do a webinar. We can go there in person, whatever it takes. So just reach out to us. Never display one supplier's stone and buy from another one. Remember that blue tape slide? We don't want to end up in that scenario, right? That the customer chose one product, the builder bought from somebody else, and it became a disaster. Don't do that. Ensure your sales team is trained to explain natural stone to clients. Okay, natural stone, not just a rock. Okay, it's a beautiful product. It has its beauty. No 2 stone is alike. And it's very important for them to understand what they're selling so that when they're talking to the client, they can explain properly. All right, so what's best next steps? We can schedule a free training with your installation crew. We can schedule a training with your sales team. We can do a Q&A. We're here to help you and support you in any way we can. Okay? And if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If maybe later on you want to email me or call me, this is my email, my mobile number. I'm here to help you and support you. If no one else has any questions, thank you for your time. I really appreciate this, and see you next time.
Thank you very much, Nachi. That was awesome. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Nachi. You can also contact your Team Horner sales representative, or an email address, hxwsales@teamhorner.com, goes out to all of us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks once again for attending, and any questions, just let us know. Thank you, Nachi.
Thank you.